What is going on, everyone? And in this video, I'll be giving you my UFC Vegas 68 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, February 4th, 2023 in the UFC Apex, UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Spivac. Majority of this card is a showcase for the Korean fighters, so we can see what they got, and then also for the Korean fans, because I think it's gonna have a later start time or something like that, so the Korean fans can watch it. So I actually think it's gonna be pretty late here in the United States, so I'll have to see what the exact time is on that one, because I heard something like 2 a.m. or something like that. So, but either way, main event, Derrick Lewis, Sergey Spivac. I think that fight was rescheduled for something non-related, COVID, not an injury or something, who knows, from Lewis, and so we'll have to see how that one plays out. And then the rest of the fights on the card, like I said, I mean, it could be bangers, honestly. It could be some really good fights. We'll have to see. But let's go ahead, jump right into it. I think this is going to be a really good year for UFC, just for MMA in general, but mainly for UFC. I think a lot of big fights are going to be made, so let's get into it. In the first fight on the main card, we have Yusaku Kinoshita, 6-1, taking on Adam Fugitt, 8-3, welterweight bout. So we have Kinoshita coming in here, and he's coming off the Dana White Contender Series that took place August 30th, 2022. He's coming off that pretty good win where he knocked out Jose Enrique, and it was off of a big counter. You saw him kind of judge the counter. He saw it, then he went for it actually, and was able to just put him away, dropped him, very, just nasty power on him. Pretty good low kicks in there. A fast fighter. He picks his shots. He's not sloppy. He's definitely waiting his turn, right? He's going to try to pinpoint, drop some shots, counter you. And he's also pretty aggressive. Like, he'll walk you down. He's not backing up, right? And I think his shot selection is just a lot cleaner in comparison to Fugitt. Now, that being said, Adam Fugitt, maybe he tries to mix in the wrestling. Maybe he tries to get the takedowns. And if he's able to get some takedowns here, maybe he tries to get the control, slow it down a little bit. Because I think Kinoshita is going to be pretty aggressive right off the bat. And when you look at Fugitt, he lost his last fight against Michael Morales in round number 3, KO TKO. There was moments where he just got pretty caught. His striking just did not look like it's going to be able to compete against Kinoshita. It's more of I don't want to say brawly, but just not pinpoint accuracy. He's not really picking his shot selection. He'll kind of run in there and just throw a wild combination. But when he's doing all that, when he's attacking, he leaves himself open to some shots. And obviously against a guy who's looking for a counter, I just don't see that working so well for him. And I think the speed advantage is obviously going to go to Kinoshita, so that's also concerning. I don't think Fugitt is going to be able to have that speed advantage here. Now, if he can slow the fight down, like I said, through the grappling, tire him out, maybe that could be to his advantage. But even that, he's gonna have to get him down. We're gonna have to see if Kinoshita is able to get taken down consistently, and if he is, is his energy gonna drain? But I don't like all that. I think that's too much. I think you're asking too much for Fugitt to get done here, unless Kinoshita just looks like a shell or something like that, and if Fugitt's able to put it on him, I just really don't see it. I think it comes off a big counter. I think early on too, Fugitt's going to run in, try to land a little bit of a combination. It's not going to be the cleanest, and Kinoshita's going to counter him, drop him, and he's going to put him away. So I'm going to go Yusaku Kinoshita to defeat Adam Fugitt. I'll take him to win by round 1 KO TKO. In the second fight on the main card, we have Dooho Choi, 14-3, taking on Kyle Nelson, 13-5, in a featherweight bout. Dooho Choi had that insane fight with Cub Swanson. Lost that fight, unanimous decision, whatever. It was a crazy fight, ate some pretty big shots. Then he took on top-level competition in Jeremy Stephens, got put away in that fight, and then he took on Charles Jourdain in a fight where he actually dropped him. But then Jourdain was just able to come back and just light him up, eventually put him away. The issue that I have with Dooho Choi is that he has some pretty insane power. He can definitely eat some shots. I don't want to say his chin is gone or anything like that. He did take a break. So he's coming off of a 2-year break, I believe. Yeah. So that's pretty good. We'll have to see how he made any improvements. Maybe he slows it down a little bit. Maybe he's not so super aggressive. Because he when you watch him fight Jourdain, Stevens, or Swanson, like, he's super aggressive. He wants to just bang in the pocket. Like, he's going to try to drop some haymakers in the pocket. And he's basically hoping that he's going to kill you before you kill him. And when you look at his first 3 fights, it worked. But then his next 3 fights against guys who had a little bit better competition, obviously being in the top in that division, they were able to, I mean, they did feel his fury, but at the same time, they were able to come back and get the victory over Dooho Choi. So I don't think he's going to look the same in the sense of where he's going to be that aggressive. Now, it is in the Apex, so maybe Choi's able to cut off the octagon even easier. I don't know. Maybe he slows the fight down a little bit. I would hope to see him slow the fight down a little bit, because giving him someone like Kyle Nelson, and obviously nothing against Kyle Nelson, but Kyle Nelson is 1 in 5 in the UFC. So they're also not giving Dooho Choi, a guy who's, on a winning streak or something. He goes from Cub Swanson, Jeremy Stevens, Charles Jourdain, to a guy who's 1 in 5 in the UFC. So obviously I think it's kind of, they're giving him a guy that they think he can beat, get him back on the win column, right? And then see if he can proceed from there, basically. But I would like to see Choi be a little bit less crazy, be a little bit more patient. We don't need to be brawling with people at the same time. I'd like to see a little bit more from him. And also for Kyle Nelson, like, it'll be interesting to see if he's able to, I think Nelson might go for some takedowns here. I don't really even like Nelson's chance, though, even if it is, one of these in the pocket brawling fights, because Choi is able to drop Jourdain, and who knows, if he would have put him away, it would have been all, he would have been coming off a win. Same thing with Swanson. Like, I mean, just even like, these guys are able to eat some big shots and come back, but I'm not sure Kyle Nelson's able to eat some of these shots too, especially if he gets in close. Now, that's, like I keep saying, that's granted if Choi fights that way, but I'm not really sure. For Kyle Nelson, try to get the takedowns. He's gonna have to slow the fight down. It's really gonna come down to, I think Nelson just slowing the fight down, taking him down, holding him on the floor. Obviously not brawling with him on the feet, because that's just not going to be good. Maybe, I mean, Nelson, maybe he could try to go after Choi's legs. He could slow him down that way. But as far as the striking, again, I just don't see it being a good idea to stand and bang with Choi. I think Choi would welcome that, and then he would also try putting him away, and I think he could put him away. So yeah, I'm not gonna go with Kyle Nelson. I mean, he's coming off 2 losses. He's been finished inside the UFC, so that's obviously concerning, especially against a guy with a big KO power. And like I said, we don't really know what we're getting from Choi. If he does slow it down, but he's still managing that power, and he fights a little bit smarter, I mean, he could be even more deadly, right? So we have to see what this 2-year layoff has done for him, if he's been able to change his fighting style a little bit and not be so aggressive. And he has to win here, right? Because if he doesn't win here, it's not a good look, I think, if he loses against someone who's 1 in 5 inside the UFC. Or 1 in 4 inside the UFC. I said 1 in 5. It's not a good look, obviously. So I'm going to go Dooho Choi on this one, and I'm going to take him to defeat Kyle Nelson. I'll take him to win by round 2 KO TKO. And so we move on into the third fight on the main card, and we have Marcin Tybura, 23-7, taking on Blagoy Ivanov, 19-4 1-0 contest in a heavyweight bout. And so for Tybura, he's the veteran in the game. He's been around. He's fought top level guys. He's been knocked out. Right? He's a classic heavyweight. Been around. Pretty much just is almost like one of these gatekeepers in the heavyweight division. You always see his name. If you want to get to the top, you got to get through him. For Ivanov, he's been in the UFC since 2018, and same kind of thing. Granted, he hasn't fought as many guys, but he's fought similar guys: Junior Dos Santos, Ben Rothwell, Taito Ivasa, Derrick Lewis, Augusto Sakai, Marcus Rogerio de Lima. So he's fought similar guys as well. and they're both like, C tier level. Maybe Tybura is like B tier, not A tier heavyweights, right? It's not the most exciting heavyweights when you think about the heavyweight division, but it's like, okay, they're still there, right? We all know who they are. And so this fight, Marcin Tybura coming off the win over Alexander Romanov in a close fight. Really, honestly, I think the judges gave it to Tybura. I mean, it was a majority decision. So I think they gave it to Tybura just because Romanov was slowing down a little bit. Obviously, heavily reliant on landing takedowns. He landed 2 of 6. But Tybura was able to kind of piece him up. And both fighters were tired, but I think Tybura was probably landing the better shots and didn't look so labored into like the third round or whatever. But it wasn't the most exciting fight. Against Alexander Volkov, Volkov was pretty much able to piece him up and then defend 16 total takedowns. So, Tybura wasn't able to get anything going in that fight and then got pieced up on the feet. And so he just lost that one. And that was a pretty obvious decision. Before that, he defeated Walt Harris. Walt Harris, choked in that fight, but he was kind of on a routine of just choking fights. Greg Hardy, he lost to him, but obviously Greg Hardy, this dude's over in bare knuckle fighting at this point, so MMA probably really wasn't his thing. He defeated Ben Rothwell, Maxim Grishin, Sergey Spivac, got the decision over Sergey Spivac. Took him down twice, but there wasn't too much striking landed in that fight. But yeah, so Marcin Tybura, he's pretty good, right? He's like an average heavyweight, fights top level guys, probably loses, but against everyone else, he's able to kind of get the victory. For Blagoy, Ivanov, he's coming off that win over Marcos Rogerio de Lima, the unanimous decision. Close fight, even though it was unanimous decision. Didn't land any of the takedowns. De Lima actually landed one takedown, but I guess he kind of maybe landed the better damage. I'm not really sure. Again, it was a close fight. Some of these fights, honestly, even if they're unanimous decision, it's a heavy. They could go either way. Against Augusto Sakai, though, he lost split decision. Derrick Lewis lost split decision. He took Lewis down 3 times in that fight. I think for Ivanov, he's pretty determined to land the takedown, even more so than Tybura, because I think Tybura can at least strike on the feet. He can land some pretty good head kicks. Obviously has power. I mean, both guys have power, but I think Tybura would be more willing to stand and trade a little bit before he's diving in for the takedowns. Whereas Ivanov, in close, he can land some big shots, but still he's like kind of he's trying to get you on the ground, and he's going to try to just control you there, land some ground and pound, and then go from there. Because when you look at him, he's either lost via decision or won via decision. So Ivanov isn't like going in there knocking people out, right? I think he's just trying to control, get the decision victory. But Tybura, you let him, you're getting lit up on the feet. I feel like he's a little bit more confident on getting taken down, right? Tybura could probably land a submission. He's obviously done that before. And then he's able to mount people, drop bombs. So I'm not sure Ivanov is going to... He needs to be a little careful if he thinks he's just going to take Tybura down at will. Maybe he does, but he can also get reversed and whatnot. And then obviously on the feet, Tybura is going to probably be the better striker. And even in Ivanov's last fight against De Lima, he was getting a little bit tired in there, man. So I know both guys get tired, but I still just, if Ivanov's getting a little bit tired on the feet, I feel like Tybura, just like he did against Alexander Romanov, he might be landing the better shots in that third round, which might help him pull back, win a round, steal a round, just because he's landing the better strikes, and Ivanov's just looking a little bit gassed, trying to just, get into the clinch and push him against the fence, stuff like that. And he might hold him against the fence, but then Tybura's the one doing the more active damage or whatever, whereas Ivanov is just trying to hold on and pull off a decision. So for me, I just think Tybura is probably the more well-rounded mixed martial artist, whereas Ivanov, he's very good at going in for the takedown and the control, but on the feet, he might be getting lit up a little bit. But that being said, like I said, Ivanov could land something big on the feet. I just feel like Tybura is a little bit more diverse. He can land some good leg kicks, stuff like that. And Tybura might be more willing to land some leg kicks, throw a lot more kicks, put himself in positions where he can get taken down because he's also confident in his grappling or whatnot. So I don't know if there's a finish. This might actually be one of those fights where it's pretty boring, nothing really going on. Hopefully not, but I'm going to go Marcin Tybura to defeat Blagoy Ivanov. I'll take it to win by a decision. In the fourth fight and the co-main event of the evening, we have Jung 15-3-1 taking on Devin Clark 13-7 in a light heavyweight bout. Now, this is an interesting fight because Jung in his last fight against Jacoby, I feel like he got a little bit too confident on the feet, and obviously it gave Jacoby the opportunity to take advantage of a little bit too aggression, a little bit lack of defense, throwing some pretty big shots, and Jacoby was able to counter and land his big shot of his own and put him away pretty clean too. He dropped him on the floor, but at the same time, Jung is very dangerous, pretty aggressive, big shots, right? Pretty solid takedown defense. That's something he's gonna have to have here against Clark. But I don't think Jung can be getting a little bit careless, right? He can't be getting careless how he was in his last fight. He's got to fight how he fought against Kennedy and Juku. Like, he's got to be aggressive. He was slamming the elbows, pushing him against the fence. He's got to do more of that. You can't just be out in the open just trading bombs with someone who can also knock you out, because Clark has some pretty explosive power as well. Same thing against William Knight. He was able to get the decision. Jung in that fight got 8 takedowns against William Knight. Now, granted, I don't really think William Knight is on the same level as Clark when it comes to the wrestling, but that's just being said. Like, Jung is dangerous. Like, he could also probably land a submission on Clark if Clark is a little bit labored diving in for takedowns and whatnot. Clark's fought top-level competition in this division. He's fought champions, basically. Blachowicz, even though he lost. But in his last fight against Azamat Murzakanov, he got TKO'd in the third round. Just outstruck in that fight. Really didn't have anything going in there. Got dropped. His strike, he didn't have the good volume of striking like Murzakanov, and then obviously got just put away. Against William Knight, he won against William Knight. Got 2 takedowns in that fight. Knight got his own takedown. He was able to get the finish in the third round. He lost against Ian Kutalaba via decision. Got taken out 8 times in that fight. Lost to Smith, triangle choke. I think in the Alonzo Menningfield fight, he fought a little bit smarter. He landed more than Menningfield. He was a little bit more cautious. He did get a takedown in that one. Because early on, I think he was a little too aggressive and just put himself in some awkward positions, like against Alexander Rakic, Span. He was just a little bit too aggressive, relying on the power. And he can put his opponents away. I think Devin Clark can obviously drop Jung here. I don't think that's out of question. But at the same time, I could see Clark getting takedowns, but then at the same time, maybe Jung's able to defend some. And like I said, man, Jung has some pretty good power. So if Clark's diving in for a takedown, Jung's defending it, slamming elbows into his head, or just the opposite. If Clark's going to be backing up too, right? He's not probably going to be the aggressor, whereas Jung's going to be the aggressor. And Jung can clip him if Clark isn't able to time those takedowns. Who knows, right? So it's sketchy to pick either guy, because it's if you go with Clark, you're kind of hoping that he's able to either clip Jung or kind of dominate him in the wrestling and control him for 3 rounds, and hope that Clark doesn't make a mistake. Whereas if you pick Jung, it's now you're hoping that he doesn't just go out there and brawl with Clark, and then Clark's able to clip him. But then at the same time, it's can Jung defend the takedown? Is he going to be the aggressor? Is he going to push Clark? And if he's able to defend the takedown, then he's obviously going to be able to start landing bombs on Clark's head. So it's kind of an iffy fight. And maybe, honestly, if Jung would have just beaten Jacoby, I don't think it would, I don't think people would be having that little bit of a doubt. I think it's like a little bit of like, is Jung gonna get a little bit too crazy in there? He's gonna too hyped up, running there, dropping bombs, and then gets clipped or whatever. Or obviously, if Jung's getting taken down consistently, that could be a problem. But yeah, it's one of these fights where you could honestly see it play out either way. Jung's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage. 6'4". I mean, he's a big dude. Like, he's definitely a big guy. Yeah, I mean, I think Jung just has to defend those takedowns. If he's not able to defend the takedowns, then Clark's just gonna win, probably dominate him. But if Jung's able to defend takedowns, if we can see that, I think Jung can be the aggressor, put it on Clark, eventually catch him with something. So I think all this is gonna take place early too. I think we'll be able to see like what we're gonna get, right? I think we're gonna see if it goes to a decision, probably Clark. If it doesn't, I think Jung gets that early finish. So I'm gonna go Daeun Jung to defeat Devin Clark by round 1 KO TKO. In the main event of the evening, we have Derrick Lewis, 26-10, taking on Sergey Spivac, 15-3, in a heavyweight bout. And I think this fight is pretty simple as far as how it's gonna play out. I don't really think we're gonna see anything that I don't think anything's gonna happen that anyone hasn't said, right? I think Derrick Lewis either knocks him out early on. My concern with Derrick Lewis is probably like what's going on behind the scenes, back issues, life issues, like who knows. But also just his ability to not ever get past that top level competition. And he doesn't really look like he tries to, I don't want to say improve his game. I'm sure he's improving. He's always, obviously he's in the UFC. He's probably always working out, doing his thing. But it's more concerning just it's like he hasn't really evolved, right? It's when he fights the top level guys, he doesn't really have anything for him, right? It's kind of like sit back, go for that. We see him throw those high kicks, stuff like that, switch kicks. It's kind of like the extent of his evolving in the MMA. Because he still wants to bank on just the blitzing, KOing, and then sleeping these guys. But against guys who just have that better grappling or whatever, able to mix it up, maybe they eat a shot or two, they're just, Derrick Lewis is going to have some trouble. And someone like Spivac, who obviously I don't think he's the best striker or whatever, but at the same time, it's like I think Spivac can get him down, and once he gets him down, it's all over. Like, Spivac's gonna be all over him, full mounting him, dropping bombs on his head, and Spivac can probably take a punch, right? And I'm not saying he's gonna take a clean punch, but I'm sure Spivac is aware, like just like anyone who fights Derrick Lewis, I gotta watch out for that big shot. But once that shot's over, get him down, take advantage of his lack of grappling, I guess you can say, and then just try to put him away pretty quickly. Now, if Spivac's like sitting back too much or something like that, like it could be a problem. But I do think Spivac, I mean, and like I said, man, like when you look at Derrick Lewis, he's getting clipped by these guys, right? It's like even against Tybura, I mean, he just got into some wild exchanges and that shit. Against Sergey Pavlovich, he was complaining about that, but Pavlovich did drop some bombs on his head. So maybe Lewis is not able to take some of these shots, right? And who knows? But it could all be over too if Lewis just kills him, and then it's back to like who fighting whoever. But it's just, I don't know. I think this is Spivac's fight to lose. And unfortunately, if he does lose, I mean, it's gonna be pretty brutal. But I think if Spivac can get him down, it's gonna just kind of be over from there. And maybe it's a submission, maybe it's the KO TKO via ground and pound. But yeah, I don't really think there's too much to this fight. I just have more questions for Derrick Lewis. I just want to see like, what point is Derrick Lewis at right now? Is he just doing this to get some money? Does he have intentions to climb through the ranks again? Or is he kind of going to be a gatekeeper? Or if he gets finished in this fight, is he going to call it quits? Like, I don't know. I don't know the personal stuff. I don't know why he pulled out of the fight last time. It said non-COVID, non-medical related. So personal issue maybe, but you don't really know, right? Who knows? So yeah, hopefully he's okay though. Obviously, wish the best for him personally and all that. But in this fight, I think Spivac is going to get the victory. So I'm gonna go with Sergey Spivac. You know, I'm very well aware he could get nuked, but I just think his grappling, man, if you can get him down, it's all over. So I'm going to go Sergey Spivac to defeat Derrick. And I think it gets decided early on. Just going 5 rounds or some shit. I don't think so. I'm going to go Sergey Spivac to defeat Derrick Lewis. I'll take it a win by round 1 submission. And so that'll do it, guys, for my UFC Vegas 68 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, February 4, 2023, in the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Pretty good main event. Maybe. If somebody gets knocked out, maybe it goes 5 rounds. I mean, at this point, who knows? Showcase for the Korean fighters. So, yeah, looking forward to it. I think it is late, though, so, yeah, I have to see what time it is. But leave your comments down below. Tell me who you're picking. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in the next video.